Daniel, can you give us an overview of your artistic practice? What inspired you to create art?
Well, art really been part of my life from a very early age. I come from an artistic background in the sense that both my parents were artists, and so it was a very natural thing to kind of almost do as a child, and then later on take it on as a valid career. So immediately, my first interest was photography, using photography as an artistic medium. And that slowly evolved into more installation, light projection kind of art. In the last 15 years, perhaps, my interest has been more subtly around media art technology, and a lot of the issues that are part of my work are not only using technology, but reflecting on how technology has affected us, the impact it's had on human beings from a, I would say, almost like an existential kind of point of view.
Mm. Okay, great. Was there a particular event, article, or area of research that inspired you to further explore the phenomena of climate change and its environmental impact in your work?
Um, well, I think I've always had a profound concern with the environment. This is not a recent project, but I did this exhibition in 2011. It's already 10 years ago, for a foundation that explored sustainable practices around the use of water consumption.
Mm.
And I really was able to dive deeply into this subject and got very interested at that point in the garbage vortex in the Pacific and its growing dimensions, and how all these plastic particles end up in our oceans, et cetera, et cetera. So I ended up doing 6 different installations around that. And one of the incredible experiences of that project was public response. I don't think even today I've never had such a strong response from the public looking at the exhibition, anonymously finding my email on my webpage and just writing saying how they were affected by this theme.
Mm.
Water is definitely becoming clean water is becoming a scarce commodity, and I think that's on people's minds. So it really made me realize how impactful art can be in terms of, well, helping us to figure out some of these environmental issues. So I would say 2011, the exhibition was called Vortex. This is something that people can look up online on my webpage.
Okay.
It had quite a big change in my approach to thinking about art and climate change or environmental issues.
Great. Tell us about your work, Rafagas. How did that work develop? What are the technologies and materials you are using in the work, and how do they connect to its content?
So I'm very interested in the relationship between text and image, in general. And I'm very interested how in our visual culture, we live in such a kind of, fast-paced visual culture. Text is kind of being devalued in terms of its authority. It used to be that what is written is almost like the law. Still today we sign written documents. So now we're beginning to sign them. We paste an image of our signature onto the PDF. So even that is becoming an image. But there's this authority of the text that I feel is being devalued, and I'm very kind of, I would say, preoccupied, concerned about what the implications for that are. So Rafagas, um, in terms of its content, is the full text of 4 environmental protocols that were signed by all the participating countries. It's basically the 4 main environmental protocols that we've been able to co-sign at a global level. So there's Kyoto Protocol, there's Montreal Agreement, the Paris Agreement, and the Rio de Janeiro Earth Summit. So in my artwork, the text of these protocols is getting blown away and becomes this kind of abstract, billowing kind of animation where the text becomes, in a way, disappears, or it becomes more evanescent, it becomes very distorted and unlegible. The texts are being dragged by the winds in real time of each one of those cities: Kyoto, Paris, Montreal, and Rio de Janeiro. So it's real time feeds that I created an algorithm that's in real time picking up the wind speed and direction of that's happening in each one of those cities, and then distorting the text accordingly. So the top of the screen is north, the bottom is south, and there's east and west. So it is, of course, I think I'm exploring how the political winds of the moment, how they're distorting these these major texts that had an authority to them, that are kind of being blown away by, well, by populist kind of politics. And of course, last week we in the United States we signed the Paris Agreement. Again, this game of ping pong where we're out of it, now we're in it again. I think this is a fine example of what we're dealing with.
Mhm.
Texts are not being respected the way they should be. This should be the law, and we need to commit to them.
Mhm. Great. Much of your work is monumental, and in the case of Rafagas, global in scale and reach. What do you hope visitors walk away with as a result of encountering this piece?
I think there's two levels of the experience of the work. First of all, is just kind of visually kind of being attracted to it. I hope in the best of scenarios. There's something kind of, I think, visually impactful about the generative animation. It's a generative animation, meaning it never repeats. It's always picking up the latest information, the latest data from the wind speed, this kind of meteorological data from the four different cities. So we'll never exactly repeat. And I'm hoping this kind of animation will visually pull people in to kind of explore it, maybe find the words. And then there's the second level of experience of the art, which is when they find out what is happening. Technically, I think it just totally changes the experience of the artwork when you understand that right now we are seeing an artwork that's reacting to the wind in four different cities around the globe. Um, and that just kind of brings in, I think, this kind of bonus experience of the artwork that I often do in my work. I like to have this kind of tiered experience where you have the first impact, and then when you find out what's going on, you kind of go like, "Oh,
Mhm.
that kind of changes how you read it." I'm hoping that's what's gonna happen in St. Louis too.
Great. Thank you. Um, do you think that artists can play an important role in understanding how we as humans might be able to make an impact and or reverse the impacts of climate change? Do you think artists could also help move into a new phase beyond the Anthropocene using new media and a combination of innovation and conceptual artistic endeavors?
Yeah, that's two very big questions.
Yes, sorry.
An interesting question, very appropriate to the themes of that you are as a curator exploring in the exhibition. I would say that art, excuse me, I would say that art um, has one very kind of important objective or mission, which is to connect with others. And even if it's about connecting with other people, other individuals, other members of the public that share similar values to ours in terms of the environment, that connection in itself is important. It makes us feel less lonely in our experiences and our concerns. It makes us also perhaps start talking about these issues via the artwork. After all, art is a medium, and as such, it's a medium amongst individuals. So it could become an excuse to have a conversation like the one that you and I are having right
Mhm,
now. Like this conversation would not be happening if it weren't for the artwork. This is a
mhm,
very fine example of what I'm talking about. So I think there's that kind of connection with other individuals that can build, I guess, from the ground up, a sense of maybe a more activist kind of approach. Um, in terms of the second part of your question regarding data, I find that we are progressively becoming numbed by the way climate change data is usually represented. These kind of images of the planet, with the hot spots on the oceans, or the polar ice caps melting. There's a certain kind of repertoire of images and representations and graphics that are associated to illustrating the unfolding disaster, and in a way we're becoming a little bit numbed by it. So I guess one of my intentions as an artist, and it's something that I'm really very kind of committed to this, is using climate change data to create an experience rather than just like a visual graphic, is to have people have an experience of that data, that they feel it, that they are sensorially kind of immersed by it. Um, and hoping that that will also trigger other more emotional responses to the artwork. I think that that's something that artists, that's one of the things we can do very well, is take this information and kind of turn it around and present it in a different way, a way that's surprising, a way that's innovative, a way that will get our attention, and perhaps, and I guess what I'm trying to do, in a way that will make us feel a little deeper the issues at hand.
Mhm. Great. Thank you so much. That's all I had.
All
I
right.
think that sums it up great. Thank you so
Awesome.
much.